Hey guys, what's going on? It's Eli, back with another review video, and continuing on with the Disney live-action movie week. That's right, you read the title, and as I teased in the last review video, because, there's a lot of great Disney films that came out in the 90s, aside from the animated films, and most notably, of course, with the Disney Renaissance. Live-action films from Disney, there were some pretty good ones. This one, in particular, coming out the same year, well, because, when Disney had another big film of theirs, and besides, 1994, that was a big year for movies, and Disney especially, because, well, The Lion King. Nobody could have imagined how The Lion King would turn out. But on the side of them doing live-action films, came along this film. And, I think this is really great. A memorable, film from the 90s, from Disney, and what it had to offer, all about baseball, and with a great cast, good story, some emotional stuff, wholesome moments, need I go on? That's right. I am finally reviewing, and seeing as how it's celebrating its anniversary, yes, from 1994, I am finally reviewing Angels in the Outfield. Yes, Angels in the Outfield. Again, I think this is such a pretty good, enjoyable, wholesome, live-action Disney film. I've seen this movie before. I recall, because maybe I did see the entirety of it, but, one of the first times I watched this, well, when it was on TV. And I think mainly that would have been I assume Disney Channel, most likely, yeah. And I remember very well, because, when it came to the ending of the film, I remember that. And, getting to rewatch it, and again, because I think I've seen the entirety of it, I've seen it fully, and, and it's great to see that it finally made its way to Disney Plus, and the opportunity for me to fully watch it again, and of course, well, reviewing it, and so on, again, I think, this was, maybe it's not the best, maybe it's not really one of the top best live-action Disney films from the 1990s, but there's just something to it, you know what I mean? I mean, in my opinion, and I'm sure you guys would feel the same way too, and hard to believe. I'm looking at this, Rotten Tomatoes, the score on Rotten Tomatoes, 31%. What is up with that? Seriously, is this that bad? I don't think it's that bad, do you? No. Yeah, again, where this movie was going. Angels, and, a boy who can see angels, and the fact that this baseball team is sucking at, just playing baseball. Luckily, hope and faith steps in when angels help out these players, members of this baseball team, which being the Angels. But just overall, I really enjoy Angels in the Outfield. Okay, so with that being said, enough said, I should say, and as always, read the description / the story. Foster kid Roger loves the Anaheim Angels, even though they're the worst team in the major leagues. His estranged dad promises to reunite the family if the Angels make it to the World Series. So Roger decides to ask for some divine help and prays that his favorite team will turn things around. Soon, a real angel named Al shows up in response to Roger's prayers, and Anaheim's hopeless coach is shocked to see his team on a winning streak. Okay, so getting into the film itself, because taking place in Anaheim, and I give props to the description / the story, because they do, because I'd have to know the name of the location, where the movie takes place entirely, and it is Anaheim, thank you. So again, taking place in Anaheim, and we have our main characters. We have, of course, Roger Bowman and JP. Both of them are foster kids Roger being played by the one and only young Joseph Gordon-Levitt. And of course, we all know what would come next for good old Joseph Gordon-Levitt. And on the side of Disney, well, later on, he would find himself doing a couple of other Disney materials on the side of voice acting. He would voice Jim Hawkins in Treasure Planet, and the voice of Jiminy Cricket in the live-action remake of Pinocchio, and JP being played by Milton Davis Jr. Yeah. I gotta say, because I think Roger and JP, they were some pretty good kid characters. Now, granted, I mean, yeah, JP likes sometimes having moments like any kid in certain movies, but at the same time, he's not really a bad kid. So, and again, yeah, because they're both foster kids being raised by Maggie Nelson, who, you know, takes in, you know, homeless and fostered kids and such, orphans, I should say. Maggie Nelson being played by Brenda Fricker. Yeah, I think I've seen Brenda Fricker in some other movies, I'm pretty sure, yeah, but I can't think of it right now. And yeah, because, for poor Roger and JP, because, you know, we learned from each of them, because, you know, two of their parents have sadly passed away, but their other, you know, parent just not good at all, because for Roger, well, because, you know, his dad, you know, smoking and having a motorcycle, yeah, because, yeah, Mr. Bowman, you know, came to the house where, you know, the foster kids are being raised by Maggie. Mr. Bowman, Roger's dad, being played by Dermot Mulroney, if I'm saying that right. Yeah, again, just like him, you know, with a motorcycle, a jacket, and just smoking, yeah. And on the side of JP, well, JP sadly lost his dad, but his mother, still alive, but I guess like kind of the same thing, like the situation like with, you know, Mr. Bowman, so yeah. And yeah, for JP and Roger, well, they're both baseball fans, and they root for the baseball team, the Angels, which at the start of this film, yeah, the Angels are suckish, and yeah, because as I explained early on, and they're just not good. They're just not good at what they do, playing baseball, and their manager, you know, and leading them and such, one of our other main characters, George Knox, being played by the legendary Danny Glover. And George, well, he starts off being a pretty, like, miserable, grumpy, very, you know, over-the-top tough, like, manager and such, and just, he's really not having a really good time, and, you know, just, especially, like, he just can't stand the Angel, you know, players, because they're not good. Yeah, and, like, yeah, the Angel members, the members of the Angels, because, well, yeah, because we have, yeah, Triskut, am I saying that right? I don't think so. Again, you know me sometimes, bear with me. Triskut Mesmer, if I'm saying that right, being played by Tony Longo. Whitbass, I think I got that right, being played by good old Neil Meknev, if I'm saying the last name right, a really great character actor, because he's done so much. Like, he was one of the team members of Captain America, the First Avenger, with the mustache, and I remember him from Star Trek First Contact, playing Ensign Hawk, and of course he's done so much more, and he was also in the Sonic films, yeah, and I'm sure you would know him. Even my dad told me about him being this one movie where Neil plays the devil, basically, so, and wearing black, if you know about that film and what I'm describing. There's Ray Mitchell being played by Stoney Jackson, Danny Hemmerling, yeah, being played by good old Adrian Brody, and yeah, Adrian Brody, before his acting career would really kick off years later, especially when he would win his first Oscar. Yeah, so before all that, he was in this. And not having a big part in this, yeah. There's also Wally, being played by Tim Conlon, and I could have sworn that it might have been him, because he too not having a big part in this, just like Adrian Brody, but at the same time, they are a part of the Angels. Ben Williams being played by good old Matthew McConaughey. All right, yeah, he was. I could have sworn that that was him, but again, him and Adrian, they don't have that much. Like, they don't have much to do in this film. I mean, just not really. They don't have like big roles. I mean, again, they are a part of the Angels, but some of the members of the Angels that are really focused, like, I mean, can't forget to mention him, of course, because he's, one of the important members of the Angels, Mel Clark. Mel Clark being played by Tony Denzea, I'm pretty sure, yeah. And the other members, because there's Pablo Garcia, played by Albert Alexander Garcia, and there's Jose Martinez, if I'm saying that right, being played by Israel Arabi. I think I'm getting that right. I'm pretty sure. Tristrak, he's like the big heavy guy, so, and part of the Angels, so, and also, the main announcer at the Anaheim Stadium, baseball and such, Ranch Wilder, being played by J.O. Sanders. Oh boy, Ranch Wilder, and we can tell right away, when we get our introduction of Ranch Wilder, and when we see what he's doing and what he's like, we can already tell immediately that he, Ranch Wilder, pardon my French, is an asshole. He pretty much is. Especially because, like, just giving George Knox a hard time, and of course giving the Angels a hard time, just, makes you want to punch him, just, so, and for the rest, and Carolyn, because there's also Frank Gates, being played by Robert Klahezi, if I'm saying that right, and Carolyn being played by Connie Craig, I believe, because, she was, because she was with, Ranch Wilder the whole time, so, And also there's, one guy in particular, whom becomes the assistant for the California Angels, and he was this close to, getting fired by, I think, Tuesday, but, was not fired, and throughout the rest of the film helping, George, and of course the kids, that being, David Montague, if I don't know how you pronounce his, I'm having trouble pronouncing his last name, but, again, bear with me. David, being played by the late Taylor Negron. So he was funny. He was definitely, a good character in this. So, of course, the Angels, just, when we first see them, and even when, Roger and JP, they're watching from a tree in the property of the Anaheim Stadium and such, baseball. The Angels, they lose, of course, and George losing his cool with the players, the members of the Angels. And it's nice to see that Roger and JP, even though, because they were sucking at this, the Angels, they were still rooting for them. Nice to see, being loyal to them, and especially very later on in the film. So again, because when Roger met with his dad, and sometime soon, because the decision would be made if Roger would go with his dad up north and so on. And as I read, because if the Angels win, then that's when they can be a family again. And also because another kid that was living with Roger and JP. I think it was, because, there was a kid who was kind of harsh being very harsh on JP. I think that was Garcia, I think, probably so. So, looking at the rest of the cast, there's a teenager, just that's how the character's credited, being played by Christopher Leon DeBays, There was also family court judge, because when we come at one point in the film, when we come to the court and such, when the decision is made and for Roger's father, family court judge being played by Ruth Beckford. So I believe, it was Pablo Garcia. Being played by Albert Alexander Garcia, sharing the same last name. His character is sharing the very last name as he does. Because, each of them, and then it comes down to JP and Roger just talking about, their family and their parents and about baseball. And at one point, Roger, he starts praying, if there is a God, to help out the Angel team members, the players. And after he made his prayer, we see in the nighttime sky a twinkling light and such, and that is clearly a sign, and us audiences know what that could possibly be. So then the next day, Roger and JP, nice to see that, they do go to school. Because them and their classmates go on a field trip to the baseball Anaheim Stadium. And, and to speed things up, because, a miracle happens. Because Roger can see, these two glowing, figures, in sparkling pajamas, as he first describes to JP. They came down and helped one of the Angel players. And, for the first time, something great happens to the Angels, They won something, they won, and so on. Everything was good for them, at that moment. And Roger's saying to JP that, on what he saw, and even when he's talking to, sometimes turning to this big, heavy guy. And then at one point, Roger is greeted by an angel by the name of Al, the boss angel. Yep. Al, the boss angel, being played by good old Christopher Lloyd. A.K.A. Doc Brown, Judge Doom, Uncle Fester, the list goes on. Christopher Lloyd as Al. What can you say about Christopher Lloyd? He's so fantastic, such a great guy, and his performance as Al being a great character in this, and especially when, the conversations between Al and Roger, and of course Al getting the funny moments, definitely. And, and of course with the Angels, when they, because when they help out with the Angel players, and sometimes moving the players, or moving the ball around, it's great, and even everybody seeing this, they can see what's happening, but they can't see the Angels. And as Al states to Roger, Roger's the only one that can see Al and the other Angels. Nobody else can, just Roger. So again, with hope and faith happening to the Angel players, members, and and a little bit later, because George is supposed to take photo shoots with the lucky kids who got, special, a special prize and such on, whichever seats that they were sitting at, the specific numbers, they would get a photo op and such with George Knox. And George Knox, he doesn't want to do this, because, he first says that he hates kids, but boy, what would come next for him, especially for Roger and JP, because, Roger getting his picture taken with George, they're not smiling. And as some of the characters say, and when taking the picture, it looks like a prison photo, because no smiling. And then, because Roger tells George what happened, but George, he just because he does he thinks this is insane, and so on, and because this happened to two of the players, and Roger is, he convinces George to talk with them on what happened with them, and George does so. He talks to two of the members, on what was it like out there, and how did it happen for them, and what they say and describe. This starts to, get George curious and suspicious, and what the boy Roger said. And because then at one point George visiting the foster home, run by Maggie, and meeting with Roger and JP once again. JP is at first shy to talk to George, because apparently, and according to Roger, JP doesn't like strangers. And well, George, like, giving Roger the photo that he had gotten with George. But also, yeah, George talking to Roger because, you know, like, if he had seen an angel and so on. Because, again, Roger's the only one that can see the angel. So, very tough to, you know, get some of the other, you know, characters of the film to, you know, believe and assure them that, yeah, Roger, he's not joking around. He can actually see them, you know. Still, like, JP can't see the angels, but a little bit later on, like, he starts to believe Roger, like, and, you know, by seeing angels, and so does George, like, thinking, like, you know, thinks that, like, you know, it all sounds crazy, but because of what's been going on with the players and what happens later on, yeah, so, and yeah, coming back to Ranch Wilder, because again, Ranch Wilder still just being a complete dickhead in this movie, you know, especially, you know, with his, yeah, I think, yeah, Wally being played by Tim Conwell, yeah, because I mentioned Wally, because, you know, giving his, you know, partner, you know, on the mic and such, you know, the announcer, just giving him a hard time, and even at times, like, turning off his mic. Jeez, dude, what a dick. Yeah, poor Wally. So, yeah, my bad, because Wally not being a part of the Angels, but still mentioning him and being a part of the Anaheim baseball stadium, so yeah. So again, yeah, because Ranch Wilder just, you know, at times, you know, just being, like, you know, mean to George, you know, especially when he gets up to George's face and when there's, like, a press interview and so on, and Ranch Wilder just basically just being one of those characters where, you know, he loves himself and, you know, the business that he's in and just how great he's doing, just all that stuff, yeah. Also, yeah, cannot forget to mention him, too, the guy who is in charge of, you know, of all of the baseball stadium in Anaheim, you know, the big guy, and the boss of George Knox, Hank Murphy, being played by the late Ben Johnson. And Ben Johnson would sadly pass away 2 years after this movie, so yeah. Well, and obviously because he did a bit of more acting before his death, so right before he would pass away. But anyways, so yeah, I think Hank Murphy, he was not bad at being a boss, you know, a not bad boss, I guess you could say, and to George. But certain moments like that happen, like for Hank and George, until I get to them, yeah, because, you know, again, because George coming to Roger, and he basically starts having Roger and JP come to the baseball game some more, and if, you know, what he's seen is for real, he's being legit on this, you know, seeing angels and helping out the angel members, etc. And, yeah, and just to speed things up, because, yeah, throughout the rest of the film, because that's what happens, you know, the angels helping out each of the players, even, like, those that seems like they just they could suck at this and just yeah, make things bad for and much worse for them, but Roger insisting, and well, because when, you know, what the angels do, what he's seeing when seeing the angels and what they're doing, and well, that's a good sign, and when convincing George, yeah. And also a lot of times where yeah, poor David, again, the assistant, who was not fired, because at times he would always get nachos, drinks, spilled on him and his good clothes, and even at a certain point, he started wearing a raincoat and like a beehive helmet, you know, those things. But, you know, later on, he was starting to get into it and really, like, you know, rooting for the Angels and with the kids and George. Yeah, good to see how he developed, you know, throughout the film as the movie proceeded on. And that goes for the other characters, because further on in this movie, they really start to, you know, evolve and, you know, become great people, you know, and it's thanks to Roger. I mean, yeah, not to leave JP out, but especially Roger. Yeah, it's thanks to Roger. He would really shape things up and make things better for the Angels, and especially for George Knox. And to mention the other cast members of this movie, and especially the Angels, because, yeah, Girl Angel being played by Pamela West. That name sounds familiar, like one of those names, I guess. I don't know. There's Rookie Angel being played by Oliver Deer, and Brother Angel being played by Lionel Douglas. Yeah, and Lionel Douglas, like his IMDb profile, like like Big Bird is in there. If you like, I don't. It's true what I'm looking at. So, anyways, yeah. So nice to see that, because we see a couple of angels, and not just Al. And yeah, as I mentioned, Al. The many times he pops up and interacts with Roger, and even when Roger's like speaking loud, but Al just telling him to be quiet because to remind Roger that only he can see Al and the other angels, nobody else, and it would make things awkward and so on. And you know what, JP. A couple of times in this movie, like wishing that he could see the angels, and if it could happen, possibly, we just have to wait, just have to wait and see. But until at the very end of the film. And again, because Al having the funny moments, him out in the baseball field, and even like say when at one point Roger asks George and for the other members of the Angels to not swear because, well, that just upsets the Angels, and if the Angels are to help out, like, no swearing, please. So that's what George does. Yeah, even like the members of the Angels are just like, what? But they just have to do so. And even when at times George is this close to like, but he catches himself like quickly, just like, and not say a swear word, and just, yeah, it's pretty good. Even when like there's a montage that happens, and yeah, because further on, things looking good for the Angels. They're still good, like from winning and with throwing the balls and no misses and catching the ball, and just, yeah, things are looking good for them. And again, because a montage, and especially Al is there, and like even when he gets up close to George, he was having an argument and was this close to swearing, but no, and Al lip syncing to George. It was funny. Yeah, so like I said, things are really looking good for the Angel players, the team members of the Angels, and for George, and yeah, and the relationship further with George and the kids. And even when, at one point, because like there's one moment where George, is offering them a ride to take them back to the house, but JP, he doesn't want to get in the car, and Roger explains to George that for a while, when JP was still with his mother, they were living in a car, and JP had to curl up like a cat to sleep and such. Like, understandable, very understandable for poor JP. And so instead of taking a car, they take a freaking bus from the Angels bus. Well, bus is still fun to ride in. But anyways, so, yeah. So going back to the Foster house, Maggie and so on. And at a certain point, still, when things are looking great for the Angels, well, unfortunately, George has to go to court because, the supervisor and such, for John, if I said George, I'm sorry, John, John is called up to go to court because the day arrives, and the decision and for his father. And unfortunately, he's going to miss out on tonight's game. But, well, I mean, there's nothing they can do about it. And neither could Maggie do anything about it. They have to do this. But, I mean, at least it's just one game. And the many times that, and with the montage and such, like, and how the days went by, like, things were looking good. So, even if, like, the Angels for one night, of the game would not do so good. Okay, so look what's happened to them, and everybody just now rooting for the Angels and how high up the Angels are going. All the other baseball team players and such that the Angels have beaten. Yeah. So yeah, unfortunately, again, Roger going to miss out tonight's game. He and Maggie going to court, while George and JP, of course, going to the ball game. And JP is hoping that he can see an angel, like, fill in for Roger, of course. Nice on his part. Oh, even, like, at one point, the other boy that was living in the Foster house with them and Maggie, well, he did go to a new family, and JP got emotional, and he was going to miss him. Seriously, like, I mean, that's sweet of JP, but even after all that time that he was giving JP a hard time, like, I guess JP didn't really have a problem. And even like when Roger was, standing up for JP, telling him to knock it off, But anyways, so again, Roger and Maggie, they arrive at court, and for 3 hours, and they were hoping that this wouldn't take long. They were waiting out in the hallway and such for 3 hours. And when they finally are, asked to come in, they're summoned into the courtroom and such. And, even before they were, because we were seeing Bowman's dad and just not looking good. Things were not looking good for Mr. Bowman. And, well, I mean, clearly he would have been aware that, well, the Angels were doing great. But it shows that, yeah, Mr. Bowman, Roger's dad, is a horrible father. Just a simple, horrible father. Those kind of people, just horrible and not wanting to do anything with their kids. Yeah. So, and when Roger finally coming in and, glad to see that his dad is there, hoping that, no, completely shattered. And when the last words that, Mr. Bowman would say to his own flesh and blood, "Sorry, boy," and he walks off. Jeez. Like, that, if that's not heart-wrenching and just in a sad part, yeah. Yeah, poor Roger. So, yeah. And obviously, because again, poor Roger, at all that trouble he went through, having to spend at the courthouse for 3 hours, nothing happened until the very end, and just when, because his dad was done, like, yeah. And yet missing out on the games, yeah, tough. And apparently, because after that, because Roger then, at one point later in the evening, says that he no longer believes in angels. Why? Because, like, this had nothing to do with his, like, dad. But I guess I can understand that. But, what he's going through, just, yeah, so much. And, well, JP, he tried his best. He tried his very best, but sadly could not see an angel. And even before when the game was over, and sadly, because judging by the look on the Angel team players' faces, yeah, it did not look good. It did not turn out good. We see that Ranch Wilder overhears George and JP, and JP talking to George about, the Angels and stuff like that, helping. And again, Ranch overhearing this, and when George goes into another room, well, Ranch approaches JP and, okay, what is he gonna do? Like, well, and it's obvious. Well, because when we find out later on, well, he basically got information from JP, and yeah, Ranch just basically wanting to ruin George's career, because, George, and with these two kids claiming that they see angels. Well, I mean, at least just one of them, that of course being Roger. So even after that, well, when they return back to the Foster house, and Roger being there, yeah, because JP and George, they're informed on what happened. And there's one good moment, a very touching moment where, because Roger saying to George that he doesn't know what it's like for him, but no, George does. He sets Roger straight. George went through the same thing like Roger did. When George was a kid, he didn't see his dad that much. And yeah, so George does know how it feels for both Roger and JP. Because one of their parents just being completely horrible people and not wanting to do with their own kids. That's sad, but it's true. Yeah, and it's very tough. And what this movie delivers on that subject, pretty well done. We always need that kind of stuff. And yeah, I think Angels in the Outfield established that pretty well, that subject. And yeah, so George, throughout the film, really connecting, and especially, up to when George shared his side of what happened to him as a kid and what Roger and JP have been going through. That's great to see. And so later on, well, if things could not have been much worse, I should say, George is called at one point he's called into Hank Murphy's office because, well, it got on the newspapers, thanks to freaking Ranch Wilder, jackass. Because Hank Murphy is disappointed in George because, what's on the paper and, saying that George, sees angels. Well, and of course it's just Roger who can see them. And not looking good, and just this, like, stupid, like, crap and such that, and I think, from what I could tell, like, Hank, like, was hated doing this to George when he was this close. Like, George was this close to losing his job and what he was doing, a part of baseball. And I'm pretty sure as though, yeah, Hank hated to do it because, I'm sure as though that Hank, loved George and, how great he was, especially by this point, and how great the Angels were doing. Just, yeah, but George trying to convince Hank that, and, it worked with convincing Hank, and Hank giving George another chance, to set things straight, and not to just say that, go over the shark, jump over the shark, and, saying that, yeah, he's seen angels. Like, if he does that, he's out. And then, like, we come to this one sequence where, yeah, George is supposed to make a statement, and everybody is there, the press and the conference and so on, and, well, it was written on paper, and then at one point, well, Roger, JP, and along with Maggie, they come in, and they're helping and supporting George. And there was a good scene where Roger was having a nice conversation with Maggie, and if she believes in angels and so on, and it seems as though, yeah, with what she said to Roger, seems as though that she did. And so again, as I said, like, Maggie, Roger, and JP, they come to the conference, helping and supporting George, and, well, for George, like, forget the statement and on paper, he risks it, and just talking about, if, like, anybody, believes in certain things, and, like, if they believe in God, then why not angels? Like, that comes from Maggie, because at a certain point, when George is finished with what he has to say, making a pretty good speech, Maggie stands up and speaks for George, and talking about belief, and just, if anybody believes in God, then why can't you not believe in angels as well? Well, angels being a part of God and such, that's the thing. Even like Maggie making a good point, because a football player, on one knee and praying to God, nobody laughs at that. So, yeah, just like great dialogue in this film, and at that sequence, like, with George and Maggie, and thankfully, because George, even though he was risking it with that speech he gave, just coming from his own mouth, and the words from him, just, yeah, luckily, he still stayed on board, and, when Hank Murphy, he stood up for George, and all the other, the members, I should say, all the members of the Angels, them standing up for George, because by this point, yeah, they love and support their leader / manager, George Knox. Yeah, it's great to see. So George staying on board, not to mention because by this point, they're up to the last, like, games of the season. So, yeah, they're coming up very shortly. Also, to talk about more about the members of the Angels, because, I love it when movies do this. Like, any characters in this group, team members, you know what I mean? Like, whether if it's baseball or a superhero team, or, like, take, for example, like, members of a circus, or, members of this squad or something, movies never disappoint when these characters in these groups and gangs, each of them having their own personalities, we know what they're like, and yeah, the members of the Angels, because, yeah, they're quite funny, because, especially, like, as I mentioned, the big guy, Triscoot, if I'm saying him, yeah, like, he was quite funny, and how, yeah, things were looking good for him when, he was doing great in baseball. And White Whitbass, he's basically, the goofball and the dummy, basically, but at the same time, like, he was a great guy and great character. He had good moments. But at the same time, having some funny, stupid moments, like, kind of, like, accidentally, like, punching himself, like, just instantly. And also, yeah, the big one, Mel Clark, because, well, he had been a heavy smoker, for one thing. He had been a heavy smoker, and, like, muscle spasms, his arms not feeling good. But what comes for Mel, especially, towards the last game of the season. Oh yeah, we're getting there. Okay, so yeah, to speed things up because, well, the final game of the season, it's a big night, everybody is there, and by this point, the audience, they're now, like, they have, like, their very own, like, handmade, like, you know, angel costumes and such, yeah, so, and it seems like, yeah, like, they, you know, have come out to, you know, believing in faith and hope and, you know, with, like, angels helping and such. But you know, still Ranch Wilder still being a dickhead, of course, and still giving Wally a hard time. Just yeah, he doesn't change. He doesn't. You would think he would, but no, he's one of those characters that does not. Poor him. So of course, when the big final game happens, well, still things are looking great for them, and well, even like for Mel, because he'll be coming up soon, you know, throwing the pitch and such, the ball. Al steps in. He basically came to check on Mel, and Al basically informs Roger, because Roger asking if, you know, if there was going to be any angels coming, and, well, even if there wasn't, especially what happened when, you know, it was revealed out to the press and the public about supposedly, you know, angels being seen. But, I mean, it seems as though it, like, it turned out okay, but at the same time, like, you know, no angels showing up because, well, by this point, it's up to the angel members to do it themselves. Yeah, they have to do it themselves. And why Al was checking on Mel, well, apparently, according to Al, it's very emotional, but, you know, he assures Roger that he'll be okay, because, well, sadly, Mel only has 6 months left, because, yeah, being a heavy smoker all his life, a mistake, but which, you know, I'm sure, like, Mel didn't do this intentionally, and he has no idea what's to come to him, doesn't feel any pain and such, but until when, you know, 6 months happen, yeah. But again, Al assuring Roger that Mel will be okay, he'll be one of them, be an angel and such, he'll be taken care of, and that's good to see. And right before Al leaves, well, because, you know, telling Roger that we're always watching, yeah. And it's great because the transitions and when Al appears, yes, and again, just having the funny moments, and even, like, say, when he, at one point early in the film, when he pops out of Roger's Coke cup. That was funny. A pretty good CG effect, I think. Just like Christopher Lloyd's face in the Coke liquid. So, well, you know, and even like, you know, CG in the 90s. But anyways, so like I said, things looking good for the Angel members. They're winning, but even at a certain point, it's kind of not looking good. And when it comes up to Mel, yeah, I mean, like almost like it this close to losing, but at the same time, but overall, you know, whew, because, you know, managing to catch the ball and so on, and yeah, but at a very certain point, Mel, because he's not feeling too good, and with, you know, his arms and, yeah, and how he's throwing the ball, just, yeah, not looking good for him. And that's when George finally steps in, goes up to Mel, and, you know, he reassures Mel, and, you know, he has his angel. Even like, yeah, Roger saying this to George, and George, you know, going to Mel about this, that, you know, Mel has his guardian angel. And a great moment happens when, starting with Roger, then JP, then the members of the Angels, and the crowd, the entire crowd of the baseball, the audience, even Hank Murphy joins in, and those that were alongside with Ranch, you know, from Wally to Carolyn, etc., yeah. And of course, except for Ranch Wilder, of course, he doesn't join in because everybody doing that. Yeah, flapping their angel wings and assuring Mel that he has his guardian angel. And thus, Mel proceeds on, like, you know, he's got it this time. And thus, throwing the ball and just like, and, well, you know, the ball is hit, and, well, Mel trying to catch it, like, jumping and just, yeah, and it's, like, just, like, trying to, like, kind of, like, almost getting out of the glove, but sure enough, yeah, he's got it. Like, it did not hit the ground. He's got it. The Angels finally win. Pinned and such, you know what it is. Yeah, so they officially win, a moment in history for the Angels. And Hank Murphy, because Hank Murphy, like, again, he does not change, and he has no heart, and he just thinks this is ridiculous that the Angels won, even right before they did win, because there's one moment where we see Hank, he turns off the radio, because by that point, he's done listening to stupid Ranch Wilder, and that's when Hank steps in and tells Ranch, you're fired. Just serves him right, and Ranch, just saying, you can't fire me, I have a contract, I'm Ranch Wilder. And Wally, saying to Ranch, easy, and just, yeah. And Wally gets his moment, yeah, he's all good now, just, saying, turning on his mic, and, and the Angels have won, so seems like, yeah, Wally will now get the part that Ranch used to have. Serves you right, Ranch. Adios. So yeah, great to see that the Angels have finally won. They've made baseball history in Anaheim, California, at the Anaheim Baseball Stadium. Just, yeah. They'll go down as being one of the top best baseball, players and teams and such, in baseball history. Yeah. And after that, because, well, JP, Roger, and George, they return to the Foster house, and, well, because when they tell Maggie that they won, well, of course she heard, that the Angels won. Obviously, she, had the TV and radio, so, and then Maggie, well, she breaks the news to Roger that, at the court and such, because basically, informing Maggie informing Roger, because on what is to happen for Roger, that, because he is going to be with a family, and the poor JP, he starts getting emotional, because, well, it's understandable that, he may not see Roger again, and JP just, running in his room, Maggie just, telling him that it's okay, and yeah, and Roger, turning to George, and, the conversation that George has with Roger, about, being with a great family, and, much better than, like, say, like, his parents, especially his dad, and that's when George, he tells Roger that, well, he was the one that made the call, and he's going to adopt Roger. Yeah, so George is going to become Roger's new adoptive dad, and, Roger, he at first can't see himself doing this because he doesn't want to leave JP behind, and he is also going to adopt JP. They're going to be one big happy family. Gotta slow down. Yeah, even, like, JP asking, what about Maggie? But she'll be okay. Her place is here, watching over and taking care of orphan kids, and yeah. So all ends well for our main characters, and by that point, for the first time, JP can finally see Angels by seeing Al right out the window, Al taking off a baseball hat, which he got from someone, yeah, just flying off of someone's head, and, Al got a hold of it, yeah, so, and Al showing off his angel wings, and, JP saying, I knew it could happen, and, well, meaning him seeing angels, and thus he has, and yeah, and even, like, say, I guess George now can see Al, because all three of them were smiling. George, Roger, and JP. I guess, directly at at Al. I guess. I mean, that's what it looks like to me. And Al getting the last line, flying off and about to go into the, the nighttime sky, and, breaking the fourth wall, saying directly to us, the audience, we're always watching. Yeah, and flying off, great music that plays. Yeah, that was a great way to end the film right there. Just fantastic. So peaceful and wholesome, and with the music and the last line that Christopher Lloyd gives us, great. Just great. I love it. And even like, say, like the music and score, like sometimes playing, Take Me Out to the Ball Game, that piece of classic baseball music, yeah. And yeah, the music and score of Angels in the Outfield, really good music, and, for the score of this movie. Yeah, but just, yeah, overall, the ending to this movie, it was great, wholesome. Yeah, I love it. Angels in the Outfield. Yeah, just, again, what a memorable and pretty good live-action Disney film this is from the 90s. Yeah, just the story, I think, is pretty good, wholesome, the cast of characters and the funny and emotional moments, yeah, definitely that. Yeah, and just the music and score and what was going on, and just, and with just the wholesome moments and, like, miracles and, hope and faith, and just, yeah, just what more do I have to say? Just Angels in the Outfield, I really enjoy it. It's a pretty good live-action Disney film. I mean, it may not be really the best, and it can never really, because could not top off some of the other, memorable, good Disney live-action films, like, well, best examples, like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, Who Framed Roger Rabbit. I could go on, but I think you get my point. But at the same time, yeah, there's nothing bad about it. It's just a really good, fun, wholesome Disney live-action film to watch. And I'm giving Angels in the Outfield, yeah, this sounds about right. And, again, because how pretty good this is, it may not be one of the top best ones, you get my point. I'm giving it 8 out of 10 stars. Yes, 8 out of 10 stars for Angels in the Outfield. And what about you guys? What do you think of Angels in the Outfield itself? Any of you that have seen this live-action Disney film before? Did you get the DVD copy of it? And any of you for the first time watching it on Disney Plus? Do you remember watching this when it was on TV? As I did, because, the first times I had seen the film was on TV. What were some of your favorite moments from this film? Did you get teary-eyed, and, did you get a kick out of the cast, and, from, great people like Danny Glover, Christopher Lloyd, and Joseph Gordon-Levitt? Just, yeah. Overall, what do you think of Angels in the Outfield itself? And with what I've had to say, my review, and yeah, what did you think of my review? Leave comments and give this review video a like, as always. And so, with all that being said, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed my review of Angels in the Outfield. More review videos are coming your way. They're going to be awesome. Keep looking forward, and I'll see you guys in the next video / review. And of course, continuing on with the Disney live-action movie week. Well, the next live-action Disney film I'll be reviewing, well, to best describe it, it stars Matthew Broderick. I'm sure some of you probably know what it is, and well, because it is live-action. Yeah, but yeah, I'm sure you know. Stay tuned for that. Take care, happy anniversary to Angels in the Outfield, and until I review Angels in the End Zone, peace out. We're always watching.